Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. And we are the Caritas Consciousness Project. I'm Gloria Quidu, and Caritas is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the evolution of consciousness, both individually and collectively, drawing from a wide assortment of both ancient and leading-edge traditions and philosophies. We provide curated presentations and classes and study groups in the service of evolving consciousness as the key to individual growth and global healing. And we've been doing this for the past 18 years, but in 2019, we did something new. We began to record our presentations. And so since then, we've been posting them on the website. And in the past year, we also started a YouTube channel. So the video recordings of our presentations are viewable through our website, which is caritascenter.org. And we also upload videos on our YouTube channel, which is Caritas Consciousness Project. So as a nonprofit, we rely on the support of our members and donors to keep our program going. If you enjoy our presentations and classes in the service of the evolution of consciousness, I hope you'll consider becoming a member and take advantage of the members discount. You can join on our website, caritascenter.org. And now I'd like to introduce tonight's guest speaker. Greg Thompson is a retired IBM software engineer who lives with spirit guides daily. That's a sentence that induces a double take, probably in a lot of people, and certainly in me. It's an interesting combination. His spirit guides help him through rough times, and they also rejoice with him when life is good. He personally has had several near-death experiences and one shared experience. So, Greg, before we start, could you explain what that shared experience is about? What do you mean by a shared experience?
Shared experience in this situation is that my mother, when she passed, came to me while I was sleeping. Wow. And talked to me and told me she was leaving now. And I got to go with her. She could see things I could not see. She saw her spirits with her. She saw the light above her as she was moving toward it. But we were able to carry on a conversation for a while then. And then finally she said goodbye and she went on her way.
I see. Okay, that's a beautiful experience. Yeah. Okay, so thank you, Greg, for giving us this time and for the work that you do. And now I'll let you take over. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Gloria. And I'm glad I can see some faces too. It always helps me when I'm talking. So frown or smile or whatever you wish. It'll help me understand how I'm doing. My awareness of my spirit guides came at a very young age. My first recollections was sitting in a living room, and I didn't know, I don't remember that room other than this one event that happened. I was sitting on the floor. There was a hassock next to me, and I was playing with a little toy on the hassock. It was a little carved wooden toy, and it had wheels on it, and it moved. And so that I liked that. I was watching it move and such. And I was just having a good time. And all of a sudden, I was told, memorize the room. I go, what? You know. And they said, I didn't understand what that meant. He said, remember where everything is in the room, all the furniture. Remember the colors. The colors are very important. So I did. I memorized the room. I'm not going to go through all the detail of it, but basically I knew where the couch was, the chairs, the lamps, the fireplace, the front door. I turned and looked behind me. I saw the dining area and the tables in there and the door that went out to the backyard. I couldn't see the kitchen from where I was sitting, but I knew what it looked like. I knew the refrigerator was on the right side, the stove was in the back, the sink was on the left side, and there was a window above the sink that matched the window on the door to the back door. And there was also a hallway to my left. There was a dark green carpet on the floor, and it went back on the left side. There was a bathroom, but I didn't remember much about that. But on the right side was a bedroom, and that's where my mother slept, and that's where the crib was that I slept. Why do I have to know that? Because something's about to happen. The doorbell rang. My mother came out of the back room, the bedroom, came down the hall, picked me up, put me in her arms, went to the door, opened the door, and there was a man standing there with a uniform. I recognized that uniform. There was a picture of a man on the table in the living room that had the same uniform. And I had been told a few days before by some ladies that came to visit my mother that that was a picture of my daddy. Now, don't have any recollections of ever meeting him, but this is the same uniform. It must be daddy. So I'm looking forward to, let him in. I want to see him. Well, she doesn't. He introduces himself and he gives his condolences. My mother tightens her real tight. I try to turn. I want to hug her. I want to help her. She's sad, but she's got real good tight for me. So I just wait and listen. I understood most of the conversation, but it's all adult stuff, and I really didn't care that much about it. However, there were two words I had never heard before. They seemed important. One was dead, and the other was death. They talked quietly, solemnly. I listened and I listened. Finally, it dawned on me, Daddy's not coming home. That's what they're talking about. The man left. My mother closed the door. She put me back down on the floor where I was, went down the hall into the bedroom and started crying and crying and crying. I told my mother that story on her deathbed in 1975. She was dying of cancer. She luckily was able to stay home most of the time, only had to go to the hospital a few times for chemotherapy, but then came back home. I told her, and I couldn't look at her at the time. It dawned on me that this was the moment I was supposed to talk to her about it. That's why I had this memory. So I told her about it, and I looked at her, and she had tears coming down her eyes, cheeks. And she said, I didn't know. How could I have known? You were so young. You described the room perfectly, where everything was, everything about it. You got it right. And then, oh my God, you knew the conversation. You knew your father was dead. I said, no, I didn't know he was dead. I just knew I was never going to see him. She said, same thing. I'm so sorry that happened. I said, well, it's okay, but I don't know where we were. I don't remember that room other than that, what happened then. And how old was I? Because I don't remember being able to talk. She goes, oh my gosh, let's see. You were about 4, maybe 5 months old. Backstory. My father died 6 months before I was born. He was a bombardier pilot during World War II, survived that, got out of it, came back, became a lineman for the phone company, liked working outdoors, was there for about a year, but then things started going wrong. He was having back flashes and remembering things that happened during the war. And he decided he had to go back into the service, meet his devils. And so he went back in as a career officer, a bombardier pilot. He loved to fly, so that part of it was okay. He was stationed in Frankfurt and flying planes back and forth to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. On the day of the event, he waited as long as he could in Riyadh for a mail call because he knew mail would be coming in. It was about time for my mother's letter to come. She wrote on a regular basis. He waited as long as he could, and then he had to leave. And he got in the plane and flew off. About an hour out with a brand new crew on a B-29, The number 4 engine caught fire. They were able to extinguish it, or at least they thought they had. Then the number 3 engine caught fire, and my father ordered everybody to get ready to jump. The man in front of the hatch door, and he and the door were blown straight out from the explosion. Everybody else perished. He was out there for 3 days before he was found. That's how we know the story. Anyway, that was my introduction to death in this life on earth. My mother remarried when I was 2 to a really nice man. He became dad, and he did his best to raise my mother's kid. At the age of 4, he bought a house, and I was living in Oregon City, Oregon, and the bedroom for me was upstairs, and their bedroom was downstairs. And I found myself floating. No, excuse me, got it wrong story. Right house, but wrong story. Right story. I was visiting one of my grandmothers on a weekend. This happened to be my stepfather's mother, Lizzie. She had a farmhouse, and it had, in the past when I was staying there, I was sleeping in the same room with her, in the same bed with her. And I didn't really like that because, well, she snored and it'd wake me up. I was a light sleeper. But this time, now I'm 4, she said, well, you're a grown-up now. You're a grown-up a little bit. So you can have your own room. So I got to stay in the guest room, and that was the bedroom. And it had a full-size double bed. I mean, an adult bed. And it had adult furniture, not like my little place where I lived that had, twin bed and small things in there, just my size. These were big things. And I wasn't really excited about it. She decided to leave the door open a little bit after she tucked me in with a light on out in the hallway so that I would feel comfortable. It's a new place. Didn't want me to get scared. I wasn't scared. I was happy. I didn't have to sleep with her. Okay, so I was lying there in bed and enjoying it. I was on the left side of the bed toward the door, and I was just enjoying being there by myself. And then all of a sudden I became aware I'm not by myself. There's something else in the room. I looked around, couldn't find anything. I moved over to the right side of the bed and looked down on the floor, and nope, I went back to where I was on the left side. Thought, well, this is just kind of weird. Maybe I am scared a little bit. Maybe the ghost. No. I don't feel scared. But I've got my own room. All right, this is really cool. No, there's something in the room. There really is something here. So I just laid still. I just looked, and I just slowly looked over to the right. And way over there, yeah, there's something there. There's a boy, a little boy. He's sitting on the bed. He's got his back to me. He's got his legs crossed, and he's writing something. But wait a minute, he's not really a boy. He's kind of a blue-gray or blue-white color, and I can see through him. Well, that kind of sounds like a ghost, but I don't feel like it's a ghost. I wonder what it is. So I just watched. He finished writing, turned and looked at me and said, oh, hello. Hello. Who are you? Oh, I'm your guardian angel. You're my what? I'm your guardian angel. Okay, now we're just staring at each other. What are you doing here? Oh, well, I'm writing a report on you. I have to write a report. And I said, okay. What are you doing? Who are you writing it to? He said, oh, I'm writing to my superiors. They want to know periodically how you're doing. You're doing fine, right? I said, yeah, I'm doing fine. Okay, good. That's what I wrote. Now we're staring again. I'm thinking to myself, they're going to periodically look in on me and check me. That's kind of like an adult thing, seeing if kid's doing good. What am I supposed to be doing? So I asked, what am I supposed to be doing? What's going on here? Oh, well, you can do anything. You have a choice. You can do anything you want. but you said you're checking on me. What are you checking? Why? Why are you checking? Well, we just make sure you're okay. That didn't make sense to me at all. No, I got kind of feeling there's a path or something I'm supposed to be doing. Is there a path I'm supposed to be doing? Well, you can do anything. You have a choice. Okay, we're going nowhere on this. But then by that time, I kind of figured he knows what's going to happen, what path I'm supposed to be following. So I started egging him on about that. Please let me know, let me know, let me know. No, you can't do it. No, you can't do it. And finally, he said, well, if I told you, I would just have to then erase your memory of it. So there's no sense in doing it. I know I can get him. I know I can get him. So tell me. Well, finally he does. And then he erases my memory of it. About that time, Lizzie comes to the door, says, Gregory, who are you talking to? No one. Well, go to sleep. She closes the door. I turn, he's gone. But it wasn't the last time I had a conversation with him. Following year, 5th year, age 5, I'm upstairs in that bedroom, and I'm floating out of bed at night. I'm just floating up in the air, ever so slow, and just back and forth. And I'm really enjoying it, feeling free, just floating up and down. Such a wonderful feeling. And I did that every day, every night. And then I eventually fall asleep. And that just became part of the habit of going to bed. Well, after a few weeks of that, a couple of spirits appeared. And they said, hey, you can fly higher. You can fly higher. Well, yeah. Well, fly higher. Okay, so I flew higher in the room. I got kind of to the ceiling. Well, you can fly higher. Well, I won't bore you with all the detail, but eventually they got me to fly through the roof of the house, up into the sky, looking down around the neighborhood. Oh, no, you fly higher. So we fly higher. We go above the clouds. Oh, now we're where my father liked to be. Hey, this is really neat. I like this. I can see why he liked this. Fly higher. Well, how much higher do I have to go? Just keep flying higher. So we flew higher. We flew out into space. And then they said, stop, turn around, take a look back. And so I did. Oh, there is the Earth, the whole planet. I can see the whole planet in front of me. Blue, white, a little bit of green, a little bit of brown. And more importantly, I could feel the energy from it, the love of everything there, nature, everything about it was just beautiful. I loved it. This is great. This is fantastic. And then I looked around and, everything else is black. Yeah, there's stars and stuff, but it's all black and it's cold. But the Earth, it's nice and warm. I want to go back home now. Can I go back home now? No. We're not done yet. We're going to go further. Well, okay. I mean, they've been right so far. Everything's been pretty good. We made an adventure. Okay. So we go way out into the solar system. And we finally stop. I go, okay, now what? Well, we're going to wait. For what? You'll see. So we're just sitting out there, in space and looking around. And I look over to the left and I go, oh, there's Jupiter. I heard about Jupiter. I saw a picture of it sometime. Huh, okay, far away, but there it is. Oh, here come the three guides. They come over. They're taking over from the two that were there. And the two said, we'll see you later. Okay. And they disappear. So now the 3 are going to take me. And they say, we're going to go fast, really fast. And you're going to have to be very attentive and stay with us. We're going to have one on the right side, one on the left side, one behind you. And we're going to shoot through space real fast. Okay, we got a long ways to go. Okay. So off we go. And I can see stars going by, flashing by. And we enter a tunnel of colors. White, blue, green, yellow, all streaking by around this tunnel as we're going through it. And just looking straight forward. And we just keep looking straight forward. And you keep looking forward. Just keep looking forward. Don't look elsewhere. If you get off path, we'll never find you again. Okay. So we go on through it. And then we come out the other and we're in a black void. Well, now what? We wait. I've heard that before. Okay. But there's nothing there. But then eventually I see 2 little white lights coming from far away. And they get bigger and bigger and bigger as they get closer and closer. And they get up to me. And they look like they're trying to look like humans, but they're not really doing too well. They're the size of adults, but they're kind of basically a white cylinders, really bright white cylinders, two of them. And the one on the left says, "We're your teachers. We're here to teach you what you need to know in this life on earth." Okay. Repeat after me. And we went back and forth. It taught me something. I kept repeating it, getting it wrong, finally getting it right. And then the other said, "It's my turn," and did the same thing. Repeat after me. The next thing I know, I wake up in bed in the morning. Now, what the heck was that? That was the weirdest dream I've ever had. Okay, fine. Okay. So I keep on floating up every night, enjoying that. After a few weeks, the two spirit guides come back again. They say, "Yep, they want to see you again." So we go back. This time, the same thing. Repeat after me. Okay, both of them do that. And I wake up in the morning. Okay. That time I'm kind of going, okay, this must be real. The first time that was just kind of a dream, but wait a minute, now, 2 times now? This is kind of weird. So I kept on floating, and yes, there was a third time. I went back again the third time, only this time they said, "You have to tell us what you've been taught." So I taught them. I told them over. And they said, "Okay, fine." And then they said, "You're not going to remember what you've been told until you need to know it." What? All this work and you telling me I won't know it? You'll know it when you need to know it. And I woke up in bed in the morning again. I kept floating for a while. The spirit guides didn't come back, but I kept floating. Eventually, I guess I got tired of it and stopped doing it. The interesting thing that started happening then, that I was 5, by the time I was 6 or so, I started becoming aware of future events, things that were going to happen. And they weren't always right, but they were right, pretty good amount of time. And in school, in grade school, I would talk about it to other kids. I was just sharing information. And by maybe the age of, in about 6 months, 8 months later or something like that, I was starting to get a crowd around me at the playground. They were asking, well, what's going to happen next? Because there was enough happening that there was enough that was coming true, though not everything. And then one little girl, a year younger than me, she came up to me and was listening to the whole story. And she goes, "My aunt talks like that too." I go, "Oh, okay. Yeah. And they took her away, locked her up last weekend. You shouldn't say things like that." Oh, okay. And that felt true because it dawned on me, nobody else was saying anything. It was just me. I thought, well, maybe I better be more careful. So I stopped talking about it. Things still went on, but I didn't talk about it. I was about 8 years old, and my mother invited me to go to lunch with her one day at the little deli next door to the grocery store that they ran. My stepfather and my mother ran a grocery store. Anyway, I was sitting over there, and she was having lunch, and she was reading a book, and I was just having my lunch. She was reading a book called "There Is a River," story about Edgar Casey. She read off a couple passages she saw in it from different chapters. And one of them had to do with healing energy without touch, just touching and just healing them with energy. And the other one had to do with predictions, seeing things in the future. And then she did something she had never done before in her life, or my life anyway. She asked me what I thought about that. I thought, whoa. I mean, she always tells me what to do. She doesn't ask me my opinion on things. And she said, "Well, no, but really, I want to know." I said, "Well, duh." She goes, what do you mean by that?" I said, I don't heal anybody. I've never tried that. But I'm aware when somebody gets ill before they know it. I can tell whether they got the flu or they got a cold, that kind of stuff. And as far as predictions, well, yeah, I see that stuff all the time. She said, "Well, what kind of things have you seen?" So I told her a few things that had been going on recently. One of them she actually knew about. She had the same thought, which I thought was interesting. That was my first time I realized that there was something going on with my mother that I didn't know about, that she had some So she has some gifts too. When I asked her, I said, well, what can I do about that? I mean, I don't want to talk about it because some people don't like it. They get scared or they look at me like I'm crazy or they, whatever. And, I don't want to do that. She said, well, you already are able to feel how people feel, right? You know if they're sick or not. I said, yeah. She says, well, then you probably can also figure out whether or not they'll accept what you're saying or not. She said, you're going to have to figure it out yourself. Every person's different. Okay, fine. So I did find a few people I could talk to and continued on. And when it got to junior high and high school, it was basically, well, who's going to win the football game this weekend? Yeah, I think I had about a 75, 80% chance of being right, but not always. And I don't know, maybe they were betting on me. I don't know, but it continued on like that. But things changed a lot when I went to college, a real lot. I had grown up in Oregon City. It was a mill town at that time, and it was basically white. In fact, there were no black people in town until my senior year in high school, and it had to be a black family that moved in just up the street. I saw them move in. I never saw them again. I knew they were living there, but they never were on the porch. They were never in the yard or anything. And I really felt sorry for the kid. There was one boy. He was in junior high, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I didn't like junior high. I didn't like high school either. But how is he going to be treated? Anyway, in college, I found it interesting because I started 2 weeks after graduating from high school. My mother wanted me to start in the summer. She was afraid that my stepfather would talk me out of going to college, that he thought I was too dumb. He was saying that kind of stuff. She knew different. So I was there, and it's basically graduate students. And they actually had conversations. They actually talked about things, different opinions, and they respected each other's opinions, and they actually listened to each other and talked. And my mind opened up. I just wide open, wide open. And that also opened up spirit-wide too. I predicted a couple of deaths. Unfortunately, it did happen. But I also had an interesting thing happen in my second term. I was a freshman. I was still 17 at that time. And I was sitting there, lying there in bed in the dorm one night. There was a dance going on for freshmen, big dance, social thing to get together. And the dorm pretty much emptied. All the guys were off to have a good time. And I stayed. I was really awkward around girls. I mean, really awkward. I'm that stereotype, you sit and stare at your feet or stand there and stare at your feet and stutter. That was me. I couldn't carry a conversation with a girl if I tried. And there was times I tried and I just embarrassed myself. And then I was trying to figure out, well, I'm on my second term of college. I need to declare a major at some point. They let you not do it in the first year if you don't want to. Because basically the first year everybody's taking the same kind of courses. But I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living. I mean, I knew how to check in the grocery store, whoopee-doo. But what do I want to do? What's my passion? I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, bam, I knew. I knew that from a romantic interface, I would have a woman in my life that I would thoroughly enjoy and love, and she would love me. And I also knew that I would have children in my life, though they were not children of my own. But it would be a wonderful life. You can't get better than that. And as far as work goes, I'd have the same career my whole life. I would never get fired. I'd never be let go. I would just stay with that job, and I would thoroughly enjoy it. And I would retire on my own terms. Well, that is exactly what happened. I met Nancy, and she unfortunately married the wrong guy. And I thought that was pretty stupid. I knew him, I'd known him for years. I thought he's a jerk, but she married him anyway. Well, she finally caught on, and she divorced him. And a few years later, we got together. And she had a daughter by that marriage, and that daughter's had 3 kids. So there's a family. As far as work, well, yeah, you already got the feel for that. I worked for 43 years in the IT industry, the last part of it being at IBM. And yeah, I never changed jobs, but I changed companies. It was kind of a weird way of doing it. I had the same boss for 20 years. Nobody ever had a boss for 20 years. I mean, not even in the 80s and 90s, but that's the time frame that I had the same boss. So it dawned on me much later as I was writing the book and trying to write journal of everything I was doing, that was one of the things I was taught my path was to be. And I would know when I needed to know. And I needed to know because when I learned about the love life, if you will, it was only a week later that I met Nancy. Unfortunately, like I said, she married the wrong guy. And then about a year later, I had a roommate. They introduced me to computers. So, it all was right there. Okay, we've gone around a little bit here. We went up in the college days, but I'm going to go back to when I was 10 years old. I was taking music lessons, piano lessons, and I had a lessons down in Milwaukee. I get off from school, go home, and get the books, music books, and then walk up to the grocery store, say hi to my parents, go down to the bus depot, get on the train, or get on the bus and go down to Milwaukee, about a half-hour drive. So I'm walking that one day, and I get to 7th Street. 7th Street is, was, and I think still is, a very busy street in what was then considered Uptown, which I don't think it is anymore because Uptown's a lot bigger. The city's much bigger than 5,000 people. Make it very big. And there was a crosswalk there. It had it was marked with white lines on it, and it had a yellow flashing light on it. And the reason for all that was because about 8 blocks up the street was a speed limit change. People were driving in from the south, came in on this road. It was actually a highway, and it was 35 miles an hour at the top of the hill. And when it got down to me, about 2 blocks before it got to me, it was down to 25 miles an hour. But people were going through it a lot faster than that. They hadn't slowed down completely. So I'm standing here waiting to go across the crosswalk, waiting for the traffic to go by. And an older couple walk up behind me. Okay. And a man on the other side, and 2 more come up on my side, and another couple on the other side. So we had quite a few people waiting to go across this crosswalk. Well, I thought I saw an opening. So I took a step off the curb, and I took one more step, and I got picked up by the back of my neck. Now I was wearing a brown leather jacket. It was in the style of a bombardier pilot from World War II. And of course, my dad was a bombardier pilot. So I had it on, I had it zipped up because it was a cold day and sunny, but cold. So somebody picked me up on the back of my jacket, and I could feel it against my throat and put me back on the curb, and a red car shot by and missed me. I was kind of surprised because the only people behind me was that couple, right directly behind me, and that man, he had a cane. That didn't make sense. So I turned to him, I said, "Mister, did you pick me up, put me back on the curb?" He looked at me, laughed and said, No, Sonny, you have really good reflexes. You jumped." And he looked at his wife and she smiled. I turned and looked at that and going, "No, that's not what happened." I said, "Mister, are you sure?" He goes, "Yes, Sonny." Okay. Well, I cleared off, and I walked across the street, and I was turned right, went down 7th Street on the other side, got down to the next intersection. And I then, a little leery about going across the street. So I looked left, it's okay. I looked right, and there was nobody turning on the side street here that I was on. So, okay. I looked again left, looked right again, and then I saw it. Saw a red car parked in the middle of that intersection, stopped, and there was a little boy on the ground in front of him, not moving. I thought, oh God, how did that happen? I didn't hear it happen. And I looked to the left, and there was a woman running toward me down the street, yelling, "No, no, 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 no." So I looked right again. It was gone. Traffic was just going by perfectly fine. I looked back to the left. She was gone. I looked back to the intersection, and I felt death strong, real strong. There was definitely something that happened there. And I didn't know if it happened before or it's going to happen in the future. I had many of these kind of things happening to me, and I couldn't keep track of time. So I went on down to the store 2 blocks down the street, and I asked my mother if there had been an accident where a kid had been killed recently. I think I would have heard about it, but I didn't. And she said, no, she wasn't aware of any. My stepfather walked by, and she asked him. He said, no, he didn't know of anything. I forgot about it. So now I'm going to jump forward to 1986, November 7th, 1986. I was the lead tech engineer for mainframe computers at Pacific Northwest Bell, or actually, excuse me, no longer Pacific Northwest Bell, US West. So I had about 20 people working for me on dotted line. I didn't have to manage their stuff, thank goodness. Didn't do appraisals, that sort of thing. But I was their lead on the tech side of it. And one of my cohorts, I had just gotten that promotion about 2 weeks before, and one of my cohorts got promoted to my old job. And it was a promotion, actually pay increase. And he wanted to celebrate. So he said, let's go out tonight. I'll buy a drink round. So we went, I should say, he was going to go and go. And I decided not to go because I had to go out of town a couple of days later. I had to go back to Philadelphia for a meeting with a bunch of other companies. We were writing a white paper on doing automation for the mainframe. And I wasn't ready for it yet. So I was going to go back home. So I congratulated him. I went home. And a few hours later, I got a call from one of my cohorts who said, they're just waiting for you. They got a table for you. You got to show up. And I said, well, I got too much to do. He said, no, you don't understand. You're now the lead. It looks really bad if you don't show up. You have to be here. Just come in, say a few words, maybe have a drink, and then go. I said, okay, fine. So I didn't really want to do it. But I got in the car and I started driving there. And I felt weights on my shoulders. I've learned since then, I actually kind of figured it out at the time, that that's my spirit guide saying, danger, danger. So I went in, and this place is, like I said, known for pushing drinks. And I got there, they've been going for about 2.5 hours, and I had 5 drinks sitting in front of me. So I took one, and I did a salutation and whatever. And I drank that one drink, and then I was going to leave, and they, oh, no, you can't leave yet. You can't leave yet. So-and-so isn't here. So-and-so's not here. Yeah, you got to stick around just for a little while. Well, I ended up staying there the whole night. I mean, until they closed. And by that time, I'd had too much to drink. But I thought about maybe taking a cab, but then it dawned on me that, well, I'm also I have a carpool, and it's my turn to drive the next morning. So I need to have my car. So I decided to drive home with the weights on my shoulders. I got on Interstate 405 in Bellevue, Washington, and took the exit onto on Highway 520 going eastbound. And as I was turning that corner, I didn't make it around the corner. The car went off the road, down through some brush, went through a ravine, came back up, bounced up over onto the highway, went across the highway, and then turned. I turned the car, trying to stop it, and it rolled several times and finally ended. And I was dead. I flew out. And I flew it up. And I was not around anything I knew. It was all just kind of a gray mist around me. And I had 2 spirit guides, or angels, floating around me, but they were just kind of wisps of clouds, white gray clouds, as it were. And if I came around, one of them would look at me and kind of look like, put a face on and like, why are you here? And I was feeling guilty because I hadn't been drinking or driving. I didn't know what happened. And I kept flying up a little bit more and a little bit more. And I became aware of the white light above me, and I became aware of the presence. And I'm getting closer and closer to it. And I felt that love, that wonderful love that goes through your soul, unconditional love. But I felt guilty. And it just kept getting closer and stronger and stronger and stronger. And then all of a sudden there was this confusion above me. And then I heard the word no, and I was thrown back into my body. And that's when I realized I had a wreck. When I realized I was the only person involved in the wreck, my car was, of course, destroyed, but I had a bump in the head. My head went through the sunroof. That's what did the damage. And I had a cut on my right eyebrow. And that was it. And when I realized I was the only one involved, it's only my car, nothing else involved. It was like 2:00 in the morning. There was not much traffic on the road in those days at that time of day. My first thought was, thank God. And I stopped drinking. I haven't had a drink since. So that was my first NDE, or so I thought. That night, I didn't sleep well. Well, actually, I passed out, basically, is what I did for sleeping. And I canceled my trip to Philadelphia, and I said I wasn't coming on Friday. And the next night, I was a little bit more lucid by that time. And I realized that I needed to, there was something not working right with what happened. There was something I'm not remembering in that whole thing. And I'm going, well, the alcohol was pretty strong, that's for sure. I didn't drink 5 drinks, but I had enough to do the damage. And it dawned on me that as I was going around that corner, I took my hands off the wheel. I tried to commit suicide. I was under so much stress, or at least perceived stress, that I couldn't do it anymore. I'd gotten this promotion, it was really good. I wasn't sure I really deserved it or not. So I was trying to live up to that. And I was trying to live up to what I needed to do with this group back in Philadelphia. And it was just too much. By the way, I've never thought that again. Never thought that again. I wasn't allowed to die. Remember, I went up, there was confusion, I was thrown back. Kind of like a fish taken out of water and then thrown back because you're too small. So I learned something about that. But then there was another thing that happened. This wasn't the first time this happened in my life, in this life. This was not the first time this happened. When did it happen before? Then it dawned on me, the crosswalk, when I was 10. I remember taking that first step off and taking a second step, not being picked up, and hit by that red car. And I was on the front of the grill, and I couldn't breathe. I was being pushed down the road, and I couldn't breathe. And I remember the pain from that. And the car finally stopped. I fell off. My head hit the pavement, and I died. And immediately, I was no longer on that situation. I was not on Earth anymore. I was in this other world, and it was the same story, going up and coming back down, being thrown back in with my body on the curb. So that pickup, and then being dead. 2 different events happened in a 5-minute period of time in my life. And I still do not understand fully what happened. But I'll tell you, I have a better idea of it now after writing down a journal of everything I ever did, anything I could think about that was spiritual in any way, shape, or form, writing it all out. That made a big difference because then I saw what happened. Maybe, supposition. Again, back when I was 17 in college, one night my roommate wasn't there and I was sleeping. In the middle of the night, I woke up. Well, I became conscious. Waking up, maybe not quite the same thing. I was in a vision. I was somewhere else. I was on a cobblestone road, And there were buildings built up on both sides of the road, right up to the edge. And everything was shaking and moving around, just moving around. We were in an earthquake. People were running down the street past me, coming from me, coming down. And I was on it was slightly a bit of a hill that I had to go up. People were going down the hill. I saw a family of 5 come out of a door, and they started running down the street. And as they started coming down, the second floor of that building, the wall collapsed over and landed on top of them and killed them. Okay, this is getting serious. What's going on? And I'm trying to stand up. I was just trying to stand up. I was so heavy in the movement. And then a voice went by me. Help them die. What? Help them die. Who? Help them die. Okay, you're not going to tell me anything more. So I started envisioning floating out of the body, having spirit guides float around you, moving upward toward a light. And I started, and since I think in pictures, it was easy to emulate that pictures and send it out to those who are around me. You're not alone. There's help here, love here, unconditional love. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And just pass that along. I did that for, I don't know how long. It seemed like a long time, may not have been at all. And eventually, it all just faded away. So I woke up and I was sitting on the side of the bed shaking. I didn't know what the heck happened. It was very real to me, very real. Not like a dream. So, of course, back in 1966 time frame, I guess it was 1966, you didn't have internet, didn't have social media, didn't have any of that kind of stuff. And it wouldn't show up in the morning paper. It showed up the following morning in the paper. And it was an earthquake in Turkey. About 300 people died, several thousand were injured. But that's where I was. I've been asked many times over my life to help people die. And sometimes it's a one-on-one. Sometimes it's maybe a family, 2 or 3. And sometimes it's been thousands of people at the same time. And I'm not the only one doing it. There's a lot of us doing that. And I didn't understand why I was being chosen to do this. The thousands of people were in 2 different situations, tsunamis in Indonesia. And you're looking from above, looking down at them. The others were close, intimate kind of things. I didn't understand for a long time, but a few years ago, I had an experience with a man in Syria who was captured and being tortured. He was bound down onto a table. There was a man on the forehead area of him, and there was another one alongside him. I won't go into much detail, except to say that they had cut hope in his body and they were torturing him. They wanted some information, and he was not giving it to them. He was well trained. I'm observing this from a distance in the room. And he is able somehow to put himself into some other kind of place. And he was not aware of pain on his body or anything. But I also saw 2 angels floating around above him, trying to get his attention. And he wouldn't have anything to do with it. He was locked into that, and the body was dying. They wanted to help him. And I was asked to help him die. So I started my usual things that I've told you about already, about, spirit guides and floating around, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't working. And I don't know how it happened or why it happened, but all of a sudden I started saying, rise, rise up, rise, rise up. You're not alone. Rise, rise up. Help is here. Rise, rise up. You are loved. Rise, rise up. And I just kept going on and over again. And I almost felt like I was an observer saying this. Well, I guess I was in a way. And then I saw slowly the body rise, the soul rise up a little bit and then fall back in. And I keep saying it. Finally, it raised up enough that it became aware of them, and he went with them, and the body died. It took me a while to figure out what was really going on. Why am I being chosen for this sort of thing? And then it finally dawned on me many years later, as I was writing the book, actually, that when you look at me, you see a human being talking to you, right? We're having a conversation. But what you're actually seeing is two beings. You're seeing a physical body made up of the earth, right? Star stuff, right? It has its own purpose. And inside that, and it also has, therefore, being part of the earth, it is the energy of the earth, which is a little bit lower energy level. This is all my supposition, by the way. I have no proof of this. But I do know that I have a soul, and it's in this body. And it has awareness of higher being. So I can approach at the human level with empathy and try to connect that way. And once I can get connected enough that they are aware of me and not scared of me, I can then start doing the spiritual side of letting them know and sending pictures to them and such of what's waiting for them, the good things that are about to happen for them. I think that's what it's all about for me. But it took me many years to figure that out. Many years. I'd like to switch a little bit to predictions. The one that's been most impactful to me is 9/11. And you keep thinking you're over it and you're not. I became aware of it first in March of 1970. Yeah, a few years before. I was, when I was practicing talking to my spirit guides, I found I could communicate with them. I could talk with them to some degree. Before I went to college, they were basically the adult and I was the kid. And they told me what to do. But now I was in college, I wanted a two-way conversation. So what I found I could do is at night, I would lie down in bed. And there's this point in time when you're wide awake, and there's this point in time when you're fully asleep. All right? And I'm not techie for this world, but I've heard it all about it, and I don't remember the verbiage. But in the middle, there's this zone area. And it's possible to stay conscious enough as you're falling into it, so the body is going into this other state, that you can then communicate. And I found I could communicate with spirit guides that way. I could ask questions. Their answers were never yes, no. No, that would be too simple for me anyway. No, they wanted to make it more interesting. And so they'd always give me hints. You know, I had to figure it out myself. I have choices to figure out what I think about that, I guess. Well, anyway, this particular time, they had a series of dreams. I'd never had that before or since, a series of dreams. I won't bother with the first three. They all had to do with nuclear energy and other things. But the fourth one was a plane coming into New York City, flying low, and I was standing on a deck in a high-rise condominium. And I had a brand new camera, and I was taking pictures of it. And I was taking pictures of this plane coming in. And I yelled to my wife, honey, there's a plane coming in really low. And she made some comments about, maybe, they're having some engine trouble or something. I said, yeah, well, maybe. I watched it come through, going south. And then all of a sudden I didn't see it anymore. And I felt like it hit a plane, it hit a building somewhere. Now, this is 1970. There was no such plane in existence at that time. And the World Trade Center wasn't there. All right. So there was no way to put that together with anything. But that dream, that vision kept coming back to me about every 6 months. Okay. By the time I got to 1995, it was becoming much more often. And in addition to that, not necessarily the same vision at the same night, but I had another one going on by 1995. You're going to go to China. Okay. And while you're there, something bad's going to happen in the world. Okay. Well, by 1995, I'd also had another experience because I was in just a few years before that, in 1991. I'm sorry, I'm skipping around. But 1991, I had I was at the World Trade Center. Like I said, I wasn't working for IBM yet. I was a customer of IBM, and we were brought back for learning about some new stuff that was going on in the operating system. So there was two of us with me, two others, and we went down to the city, and we were wandering around, and we had to get down to the World Trade Center, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day, and it happened to be September of 1991. We went into the South Tower, and on the side that we went in on, there was a big atrium on that side of the building, and a marble floor, and you step down a few steps, go across a floor, and then you go up a few steps into the building. And you had palm trees in there, 2-story palm trees in there. I mean, it's like, this is really weird. I'd never seen anything quite like this before. And it was beautiful, and it was a wonderful warm day. And we went in, and we were going to take the elevator to the top, the observation deck. I'd never been on 110 stories before. I mean, I've been in planes, but that's a whole different thing. And so we got there and found out that it was closed. You had to go to the North Tower. Well, none of us knew how to get to the North Tower quickly. We didn't know you just go down 2 flights of stairs and walk across and go into the North Tower. So we were there. My friends were arguing about it, and I at the elevators, and I went back to the atrium, and I thought, well, what's it look like from 110 stories at the bottom? So I went over and I looked up the side of the building, and I really kind of go, wow. And I had to step back a little bit so I could get some perspective of the whole building. And then I saw it, flames shooting out of the top, and glass and fire and metal coming down around me on the outside. And I thought it was real. It felt real. I thought, should I go back into the building? No, the building's going to fall. Okay, I can't do that. So I went out, and I said, okay, I'm just going to have to run out of that building, go as far as I can, and hope I don't get hit. I went running out. I yelled at my friends, we got to get out of here. And I went running out that door, and I went outside, and I got outside. It's all gone. Blue sky, sunny, birds chirping in the trees. I turned around and looked upside. The building's perfectly fine. I went over and sat down on a park bench, and I was just shaking. It was real. It was real. My friends came out. I told them what happened. They just go, yeah, right. Well, let's go on down the street. So we went down the street. We're walking past the tower, okay, the South Tower. And I put my hands on I've never done this before and never done it since. I put my hands on the side of the building. I said, is this really going to happen? No response. I thought, no, I got to get an answer of some sort. So I asked, when is this going to happen? And I was told 10 years. Like I said, that was in September of 1991. So in 1995, I was getting these stories, these things about you're going to go to China while you're there, something bad's going to happen in the world. Well, my first thought was World Trade Center. And the visions just kept going on about once every 3 or 4 days, back every day. And it just kept going doing. 1995, 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000. And it just wouldn't go away. Finally, toward the end of 2000, it kind of started going away. I didn't get as much. I thought, well, maybe somebody else is going to do whatever I'm supposed to do because I have no idea. And I wasn't planning to go to China. I had an interest in going there because I had a friend that had grown up in China or was from China. He grew up in Hong Kong, actually. But he didn't want me. I had no interest really in going, per se. January of 2001, I heard on the radio, I was living in Seattle at the time, I heard on the radio, classical radio station, that somebody was advertising a trip to China. And it was a 15-day trip, I think, or something like that. You see all the big sites, of China that you've ever heard about. And they were also sending along a string quartet that would play music periodically at dinner times. Well, I love classical music. In fact, that's what I majored in college. Yeah, I play a different kind of keyboard now. So I thought, well, this would be kind of neat. So I looked up the price. Yeah, okay, maybe not. But the ads kept going on, and I kept seeing these visions about, or not visions, but being told you're going to go to China. So in July of 2001, Nancy and I go to the beach, and I had a new laptop, and it had a modem in it, and I could put it in and dial in through the internet. And I had a little software package because the radio station we were on the web now, they had an app, put the app on. And I'm telling Nancy about what I've been dreaming about, this going to China thing and such. And we got it up and running and turned it on. And first thing that he came on with, we still have another couple of days, you can get onto the trip to China. And they went on and on about their going to China. And it ended, and Nancy had been lying on the couch. She sat up and she looked at me. She says, "Okay, Greg, are you going now?" I said, "I will check the following Monday when I get back home and find out if I can go or not, because I don't know when it stops. And if I can go, I'll go." She said, "Good." So I went back home. I got called up on Monday and asked if they could still do it. They said, "Yeah, you got till tomorrow. You have to have a passport and a credit card." I said, "I got both." So I came in, I got it, and I went back, got all the information, went out to the car, sat in the car, and I'm looking at the information. I had the sunroof open in the car. I love sunroofs. I had a sunroof open in the car, and it was a beautiful blue sky sunny day. And I'm reading this information, and I'm reading along, and I got almost done with it, and all of a sudden it got dark. I thought, what the heck? I looked up above. The blackest cloud I'd ever seen was up above me. I thought, what the heck? It's been a nice day. In fact, it's like, 80 degrees out. What the heck's going on? And I looked around in front. I could see sunshine. I looked to the right. I could see sunshine. I looked behind me. I could see sunshine. I looked to the left. I could see sunshine. But it's dark here. And then it went away. I got out of the car and I took a look. There wasn't a sign of any clouds in the sky anywhere. The bad thing's going to happen while I'm in China. I won't go through the whole trip, just to say that, of course, it did happen. On September 8th, I had it all figured out completely. I knew when it was going to happen, why it was happening, who was doing it, the whole works. And I also was told, you can't stop it. Now, why the heck am I being told all this information and I can't do anything about it? Beijing, which is where I was on September 11th, is 12 hours different from New York City. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning in New York City. It's 8 o'clock in the evening on the same day in Beijing. We went to the opera that night. The tour group did. Chinese opera is not what we think of. When we think of opera, we think of something like out of Italy or something like that. Chinese opera is a legend, stories of legends, Chinese legends, and they're actually about 8 hours long. But we had a 2-hour finale part of that we got to see. So I'm sitting in there, we're watching the play. Beautiful, fantastic, beautiful. If you have a chance to go sometime, you really should go. And I don't know, I didn't see the time. There was a clock on the wall. Believe it or not, I don't know why there was a clock on the wall, but there was a clock on the wall. And I don't recall the time, but somewhere in the first act. I think it started around 7:30, so it'd been going for a while. All of a sudden, there was this wave of energy going across the stage. And it was chaos was coming now. And I felt it. I've had the feeling 2 other times in my life, and it's history is being changed. Something is being, we're outside force is changing it. Or we are changing it ourselves. Kind of hard to tell. And then shortly after that, maybe a half hour, I saw the South Tower coming down. I was looking at the stage, watching it, and all of a sudden between it and me was the tower coming down. And I'm standing on the street about 5 or 6 blocks away from it. And people were running by me. The cloud cover started to go up in the air from as it hit the ground. And it was starting to come our way. And I was told, help them live. So I was already feeling the death already going on. Been going on for a while, pretty much since that vibration went across. But I didn't know, how am I supposed to help them live? These people are running away from something. They don't understand what's going on. I could tell that much. They didn't know where they were. They had no idea where they were. Nothing made sense to them at all, except they had to get away from what was behind them. And they were running. Animal instinct, get away. So they were already trying to get away. What? How am I supposed to help them live? And all I could do was say, keep on moving, you're going to be okay. You're okay, keep moving. Because I was watching what's coming, I watched the cloud come toward me. That ended by the fact that the lights turned on in the auditorium. It was intermission time. I looked around down below. We were up on a balcony, looking down below. People were just getting up, walking out, just doing their normal thing to stretch their legs, whatever. And I looked around me on the right, people were getting up, walking away. I looked behind me, out there doing the same thing. I looked to the left, the woman next to me. The woman next to me had her head in her hands. And she was crying. And her friend, her lady friend that was with her said, Mabel, what's wrong? What's wrong? And no answer. She was just crying. And I leaned over to her. I said, did you feel that? She goes, yes. I said, so did I. Her friend finally got her up. I started to help, but I realized, no, I better stay away. It's a fragile moment. And they got up and they left. They did not come back for the second half. I got up and I walked off. And as I was getting off the end, I had told a couple that that something bad was going to happen while we were in China. I told them, we had a conversation pretty much every day. We were kind of bumming around together as much as we could. And the guy saw my face. He said, it happened, didn't it? I said, yes, it did. He said, where? I said, United States. He said, where in the United States? I said, I won't tell you. I won't tell you. You'll find out in the morning. Don't turn on the TV tonight. The TVs in the American hotels in China come on to CNN International with no volume. I like the idea of no volume when the TV comes on in a hotel. That's a good idea. I don't like the blasting coming on full blast. I said, don't turn on the TV tonight. And he said, well, I got a book to read. And she said, yeah, I got some knitting. So that's what they did. The next morning, I turned on the TV as I was getting dressed. And at first I didn't register. I saw a plane crashing into a high rise. My first thought was it was the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He had a new one that was coming out about terrorists, kind of like a Die Hard remake, if you will. I thought, oh, that's pretty bad timing to do something like that. And I looked away and I looked back again. I saw a plane from a different angle hitting a plane. I thought, what the heck's going on? And then I saw it, America under attack. And then down me, everybody knows now. It's not just me. Everybody knows now. And I started laughing. relief. I don't have to carry this anymore. It's relief. I just felt so good. And then I started feeling guilty because I didn't stop it. I didn't stop it. And I started laughing and crying at the same time. I fell off the bed onto my knees. I fell down on all four. I fell down on the ground in the fetal position, and I was yelling and crying at the same time, laughing, yelling, and crying all at the same time. And it went on for a while. And finally, I was like, I was observing this happening. It wasn't me. I was observing this happening. And I said, you got to let it go. Just let it go. Just let it go. And I did that. I don't know how long I was there, but I was there long enough to be able to compose myself and go downstairs. I got back to the United States, many, many days later. I guess we were the first plane coming back in that was not a medical plane. We came into Chicago. And then we took a plane back to Seattle. When I got to Seattle, I took a shuttle back to the house. And what I didn't expect to see, well, first of all, I didn't feel like I was back in the United States. It was a completely different feel. And as I was the only passenger going back in the shuttle, and we were passing cars, trucks, motorcycles, every one of them, at least one American flag on it. And I'm going, what the heck is going on here? And I asked the driver, and he said, oh, where have you been? I said, I've been in China. I just got back. He said, oh. He said, well, I figure we all lived through that here, and we didn't know when it was going to stop. It was one thing after another, and we had no control over it at all. We're trying to show unity, that we are all one, and we do that by showing the flag. I felt more guilt. The end result of that was I met a friend who told me about a group in St. Helens, Oregon, that was a spiritual group. And I went to see them. And I talked for 2.5 hours about my life. A lot of things that I haven't covered here today. And when I got done with it, they understood. They didn't think I was crazy. Well, they may have thought I was crazy, but they didn't think I was crazy in that sense. And the woman, Mamie, seemed to be kind of the leader, though she didn't say anything, but people kind of gravitated to her being the leader. She came up to me, she said, well, so you've got this written down, right? Because I talked for, like I said, 2.5 hours I talked without stopping. And I said, well, no. Gasp in the room. You have to have this written down, right? You're going to write it down, right? I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. Well, no, you need to write it down. Write a journal, something. Keep track of this. You won't remember this the rest of your life. I said, I don't know if I want to. He said, no, you need to. So I saw him again about 3 months later. I had written some one-liners. I was working 60, 70-hour weeks. I didn't have time to do a lot of this other stuff. And so I went back to him and they said, you got it written down? I said, yeah, I got some. They said, well, how many pages? I said, 19 pages. 19 pages, that's all you've got? What are you doing? I said, well, they're one-liners. Oh, no. You have to write down everything that's happened, everything that you felt, everything. You have to write it all down. Well, it took 19 years, but I finally did. Okay. So that's kind of what's been going on in my life. What is interesting now, in the last few years, is that it's picking up speed. This connection with the spirit guides. It's connecting up speed. Yeah, okay, now they show up. They're here right now. They're here on my right side. There's 2 of them, and they approached me with a cool air. So from about here over to my face, it's real cool. Yeah, it's cool, man. If you grew up in the 50s and 60s, it's cool. But if they really get excited about it, they want my attention. They come and brush along the side of my face just to let me know they're there. It's a way of knowing that they love me, that they care. I think they're actually soulmates. I think before I came here, I had a plan with them and that they're here to help me through this life. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think I actually have thousands of soulmates, but they just come by this way. They've also have helped me in ways that I had not expected. There's one time when I was driving here in Portland and I was going to Nancy's school. She teaches school for arts, performing arts, teaches music, ballet, dance, theater, and visual arts for kids. It's been an interesting kind of time through the pandemic, but that's a whole other story. We're still there. Anyway, I was going over there to do something, and I hit every light on the way over there red. Every single light. I mean, even lights for crosswalks, for bike paths, for a fire engine coming out. Every single possible place where there was a light to stop, I was stopped all the way there. I thought that was pretty bizarre. And I get there and I go, okay, fine. So then I do my thing and I get back in the car and I'm driving back. Every single light, a red light. And I started laughing. I mean, this is just hilarious. You know, what's going on? And I figure I'm being told something, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, okay, yeah, red lights. Yes, I know there were red lights. I stop for red lights. Yes, I get that. Okay, what's going on here? Finally get to Southeast Division 122nd. It actually today is considered the worst intersection in the Portland area for pedestrians. It's 2 lanes each direction, no big deal. There's left lanes and right turn lane, left turn lanes, right turn lanes also. So there's a lot of activity to get around the whole thing. I'm sitting there at the light going, yep, here we are, another red light. And then the strangest thing happened. The light didn't turn. Everybody was red, all red. Everything was red, and they did not turn. I mean, it's like everything stopped, except I'm still looking around. And I'm going, what the heck's going on here? Yes, I know, red lights. We hit red lights. And then it slowly dawned on me, no, that's not it. It's when the red lights stopped turning red. And then the lights started turning again. And so I'm going through the intersection. I'm going, okay, so the lights it's not the start of the stop, as it were. It's when the light turns green again. And I go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's not me, but it's a car coming across the other way, going across through a red light. I go on up 122nd until I get to Southeast Foster Road and stop. And I'm going to go straight across when the light turns. We're in rush hour traffic now. So everything's clogged up, every lane. Right turns, left turns, straight forward, whatever. But there's nobody in the far right lane on the right side going east. That doesn't happen at rush hour. So what's going on there? The light turns green for me. I start across slowly, going across the intersection. And as I get about halfway across, a car shoots through the intersection. He's doing, well, the speed limit's 40 at that time. And he was doing probably 45, maybe higher. And he wasn't looking. He was just driving, just like this, just going straight through. He missed me by about 3 or 4 feet, a yard maybe. I mean, we were that close. I mean, I could see him. I could almost touch him as he shot through the intersection. He was unaware of anything. He was just, remember, he was thinking about something completely different and not paying attention. He got on through the intersection. I drove on through. I went over and parked the car, not because I was scared or anything. I needed to stop and think what just happened. And I asked, if I had gone my regular speed through that intersection, what would have happened? And I was shown he would hit the front of my vehicle on the right side. My car would turn, it would go over on the driver's side. And the car would have been slid over. I had the sunroof open. My car would have hit the car trying to turn left. I would have been killed. That driver would have been badly injured. And the guy that drove through the intersection, his car would have been veered off to the right into a gas station. I went on home thinking, okay, fine. The next day, traffic was normal. So they warned me in a way that was the only way they could do it. And to this day, I kind of wonder, did they warn me because I was in danger, or was his guides warning anybody they could get to help because they knew his state of mind and get out of his way, let him get through this? Because he was definitely not here when he went through that intersection. So they help in ways that you wouldn't expect necessarily. I love my spirit guides. I actually can now leave my body sometimes. I will. There's a piece of music I love to listen to by Ola Gelio, Gjelio, called Dark Night of the Soul. He's a Norwegian composer, and I heard this on the radio and I bought the CD. The whole album is very, very, very spiritual. But this one particular piece strikes me just right. And I run it in the car, and when it comes on, I'm elsewhere. I'm driving the car, but I'm elsewhere. I'm connected to the universe at that moment in time, completely connected with all the trees, with all the humans around me, everything around me. And I'm able to drive the car successfully and also be connected at the same time. So my life is changing a bit, and I really appreciate it. People sometimes ask, how do you meditate? And I think I already told you that when I first started trying to figure out how to communicate with them, is just through the sleep pattern. Other things that work for me sometimes is just sitting down, quiet. I like quiet. I am an empath, and I found out a few years ago, I've always had trouble with loud noise, and I've always had trouble with bright lights, flashing especially. And I found out that is a symptom of an empath, too much information coming at the same time. I'm not quite sure where I was going to go with that now. But I can connect with people anywhere, pretty much. And it's it's an interesting world. It's a very interesting world to be connected, and also to both worlds at the same time. So I feel like I'm a spiritual person walking around in a physical world, and it's a wonderful thing. I've been told, actually, I knew it before being told, this is my last time on Earth. I've been here many times. Reincarnation is definitely a real thing. I've been in many, many times, hundreds of thousands of times probably. My last NDE, which I didn't talk about, I asked about if I could find out where I was created. And I was shown a picture, and it was of me being born, being created. I was a white light along with every other white light, thousands of us all being burst out of a white explosion at the same time. And we were all giggling and laughing and having a good time, just feeling really good. I can also remember when I was very little that I had the same kind of capability. I remember a time when I was very, very young in a crib, lying on my back, and my mother put a mobile above me. And it moved around, and I found myself reaching up, trying to reach to it and touch it, and giggling and laughing at the fact that there was something up there moving around. Pure joy, pure joy. If you can get to that moment in anything that you do, maybe a memory you have of some sort. Use that in your meditation. Think about that as a picture or as a sound or whatever it is that works for you. And it helps, at least it does for me, helps me get into that mood. There are times when I'm mad, I'm angry. I admit I'm human. So I have those kind of problems too. But I can connect. And it's a joy and a wonder. So now I think I'll open it up to questions, discussions.
Wonderful stories. If you have a question, please click the mute button so you can be heard. I have a question.
Okay.
Greg, do you still have instances where you help people to cross or die, as you say?
Yeah.
You do. Are you familiar at all with the Monroe Institute?
I know of it, yes.
Yes. I read a book by Bruce Moen where he talks about a practice that they do there with advanced students, where groups of people who have learned to go out of body at will, they go and help people. They go to the other side and they help people to adjust, kind of, to their destination. And it's a beautiful work that they do. And afterwards, they have this whole protocol where they write everything down that they experienced individually, and they actually see each other there, and it's very, very good.
That's great. Yeah. I'm glad to know that there are others doing that and actually practice studying it too. That's good. That's really good.
Well, a little bit different from what you do, because they're not helping them die. They're helping them kind of arrive, and see where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's every soul is different. Period. I mean, that's it. I'm a group leader for Portland, Oregon Ions, and I've heard a lot of different stories in the Ions community, and it's interesting. No one has the same story.
Right.
The circumstances may be very similar. Died at a young age, or didn't remember it until later in life, or maybe didn't even die. They just had a spiritual awakening of some sort. And somebody else will say, yeah, me too. But each story is completely different. And yet we're all one.
Right.
So, yeah. Beautiful.
So who has a question?
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. I was kind of curious. Do you get a sense of how they were able to show you like different scenarios during your near-death experiences? Like, I'm aware of like the concept of like parallel universes and you live parallel lives. Did you get anything like that, or did you have an understanding of how that happened?
Oh, well, I wish I could say I do, but no, I don't. The last NDE had nothing to do with flying up into white light and all that kind of stuff. That didn't happen. What happened was when I guess I'll continue talking about my last NDE. It was completely different than what either one or two that I had before. I don't know. I knew I was dying. I had a 30% chance of survival. I had the norovirus, and I had been diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and I had diabetes, and I had an infection in my right foot that required me to have 3 surgeries. All that led to having a norovirus. And norovirus is very much like pneumonia. It's just another version of pneumonia. It's the immune system is run down so deep, so low that things that are in our air that we normally have immunity to can get to you. And it took me 5 days for the body to die. Slow process. At the very end, it started with my toes, then went to my feet, then my legs, and then the next day it was my fingers, my hands, my arms. I mean, it was just a very slow process. They didn't work anymore. And by the end of the 5th day, the beginning of the 6th day, I was on death watch, of course. Every 2 hours, a nurse would come in and ask me, "How are you doing, Mr. Thompson?" And all I had to do was say anything. I was told, say anything, even grunt. Doesn't matter. And I thought, grunt? Well, on the 6th morning, I grunted. I couldn't talk. In fact, when she left, it dawned on me that the only thing that worked at all was blinking in my eyes. I couldn't move at all. And I went through a process of elimination of thinking about my friends, what they would think about and such, and went through my loved ones and ended with Nancy being the last one. And after that, I actually sat there, laid there, and it was the middle of the night, of course. And I thought to myself, I give up. And at that moment, there was no more noise in the room at all of any kind. Now, that doesn't normally happen for me. I always have noise in my ears. I have tinnitus from the congestive heart failure, and I can hear my heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. It's a hiss sound. There was no sound. And what happened next was something that happened twice before in my life. Was a sphere, a golden sphere appeared at the bottom of my bed, just beyond my bed. I had seen it before. It had white and silver flashing lights in it, hundreds of them. And those were each light was a representation of a soul. And I'd had it, like I said, twice before in my life when I was at my condo down at the beach on 2 different occasions when I was feeling very, very depressed. And it would show up and I'd ask it to come forward and it would come forward to me and it would wrap me up in energy, that golden energy of love, just perfect love. And it made me feel better and warm and safe. And here it was again at the bottom of the bed. And I dawned on me, oh yeah, I asked it to come forward. Oh yeah, there was also a voice in my left ear by that point in time said, "Why are you still here? You know how to fly away. All you have to do is just fly away. Why are you still here?" So it just kept going on and on. There's this little stupid voice going on in my side of me. And I go, okay, fine. And so, and now of course it's added to it, well, what's that? Why are you still here? You know, on and on. So I invited it to come forward, and it came forward and it went over my feet and stopped. And my feet got warm, real roasty, toasty warm. And I thought, whoa, I love that. And then that's when I noticed that my body was dead cold. And I thought, well, it stopped. No, please continue. So then it started moving up my body ever so slowly. And it was encrusting my body in golden energy as it moved up very slowly. And when it got up to the point where my arms are alongside my body, it spread out like what do you call it? It spread out and started doing the arms and along with the torso too. And slowly kept moving up and it warming my body ever so slowly. And when it got to my heart, whoa, that's when it happened. That's when I left my body. And I went to this other place. And I saw a universe. Actually, I saw the solar system. I saw the Milky Way and then expanded out to the universe. And then there were other universes connected to it. So it's a metaverse. And at that point in time, I was aware of everything. I was connected. I am one with everything there. And everything's still in creation. We're still being created. Everything's still being created. And I could feel the gravitation moves of anything moving at all out there. I could feel its effect on anything else. And it was all moving. It's kind of like a gel moving out there, right? It's just beautiful. And then I became aware of spirits floating around. My spirit guides were around there. And they were floating around. And that's when I asked the question, you know, where was I created? And I got the answer for that. And then I fell asleep. And I didn't want to fall asleep. I wanted to stay there, but I could feel myself sleeping. The next morning, when I woke up, my eyes were still shut. But I was aware of light on the other side of what must be eyelids. I didn't know if I was in heaven or if I was in the hospital room. And I debated about it for a while. And finally, there was a voice that said, well, Greg, open your goddamn eyes and take a look. And so I did. And that's when I realized there was a priest standing there next to me. And he had a Bible open and he was reading from it. And he closed it, saw me, and said, oh, good morning, my son. I said, good morning. And that's when I realized I could talk. And I started moving my fingers in the hand and everything worked. I was healed. I mean, I was dead and now I'm alive. And I told him the story and he looked concerned at first. And then he started smiling. By the time he got done with it, he had a big grin on his face. He said, that's really good. Well, I got to go on and move, see others. And I said, okay, fine. I said, well, wait, why are you here? I said, I've never seen you here before. And I'm not Catholic, so I don't get it. And of course, I was in Providence Hospital, which is, you know. So anyway, he said, oh, I make my daily rounds to those who need me. And that's when I realized he had just given me last rites. I thanked him and he started to walk away. I said, wait. And he turned around again. I said, will you please tell the nurse I'm hungry? And he laughed. He slapped one of his knees and he ran out the door and said, I'll let her know. And during the day, people were coming over to see me. I was no longer in quarantine. People were coming in. There was a curtain between me and the door, so they had to come in. By the time they saw me, it was the first time they saw me, was at the end of my bed. And they all stopped. Every single one of them stopped and stared. And I'd say, hello. And then they'd come out and said, you're gray. You're so gray. And I actually even had people coming in who worked there, doctors, nurses, staff members during the day, sometimes alone, sometimes with a friend. They wanted to see the man who died and came back. So yeah, it's quite something. And yes, to answer your question, which is a long question, is I don't have that knowledge, but I do have the knowledge of the universe and the fact that it's still growing and still creating. That's what it's all about. We're all in creation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any question? Okay.
Greg, do you ever teach people how to connect with their guides?
How to what? I'm sorry.
How to connect with their guides.
Oh, I've tried that a few times. Everybody is different, right? So it's hard to say what works for anybody in particular. The one I hear most often, and it does work, for me, it's I can't do a guided meditation. I cannot listen to a guided meditation. It doesn't work for me. But for some people, it does. For me, it really is just calming oneself down. We in a physical world are constantly in motion. And one thing I have learned when I'm connected to the universe is that's not normal. Stillness is normal. And so one has to change one's energy level, if you will, to get out of this physical feel. You have to, I have to at least, lower my shoulders. I purposely lower my shoulders. And then I tell my shoulders and my upper arms and such to relax. It's a form of surrender. Really, that's what it's about. And surrender sounds like a terrible word. I mean, a lot of people, we're a war culture and you surrender, you just don't surrender. But that's what you have to do. Or at least that's what I have to do. I have to surrender. I am surrendering to a higher power. It never really meant much to me when I was a kid. I was never a religious kid. That's always a spiritual one. But relax. I find for me, quiet is works. For some people, it is music of some sort, or it can be the sound of maybe an ocean or a creek. You know, you get a lot of things off of YouTube or whatever to help with that kind of meditation sort of thing. Whatever works for you to make you feel at ease, to feel safe. That's what you really are trying to get to, is you want to feel safe. What memories do you have that will help you feel safe? Maybe a little kid at some point in time, you know, being loved by mom or an aunt or grandma or whatever. Maybe just snuggled up with a dog or a cat, you know, whatever it is, or a loved one. Try to put yourself in that position. What did you feel like at that time? Did you feel comfort? Did you feel love? Can you remember what that felt like? What did that feel like? Take yourself there as part of the meditation. I've heard people say, well, breathe in and then hold your breath for 3 seconds or something, and then let go. And go, oh, come on now. As soon as you add 3 seconds to it, you're in time. You're in the wrong world. You're in the physical world. You don't add time to a meditation. At least I don't think you can. I can't do that. I've gone through that with those guided meditations again. It's like, no. My biorhythm may be different than yours, so that doesn't work. I look at it as just relaxing the body, completely relaxing the body. And a nice, safe place, a comfortable place where you want to be, lying down, sitting, whatever works for you as far as comfort goes. That's what you have to do. Again, comfort, safe location, where you can just let everything go and you don't care what's going on around you. Hopefully nothing's going on around you. I live in a house that is in the city of Portland. It's a large metropolitan area. You hear any sound? There isn't any here. I live in a forest and I'm in the city. People come to my house and they come in the house, they go, whoa, this is beautiful. And I go, well, yeah, it's nice to look at. And he said, no. It's so peaceful, so quiet. And you're in the city. I said, yeah. So whatever works. So they may be going to the park. There's a park I drive over to. It's too far for me to walk. And I walk in it. It has the normal stuff a park has in it. It has playgrounds, baseball fields, soccer fields, all that kind of stuff. But it also has a section of about a third of the park is a nature habitat. It has boardwalk going through it. You don't walk on ground. You walk above it. You're not disturbing the ground. And there's it's completely surrounded by houses. All right. I go there early morning hours when it's still quiet. And I like to get there about the time the birds are waking up. So you hear the birds chirping. You've got the rabbits. I guess wherever humans are in this nature, there's rabbits. And they're running around. But of course, that also means there's coyotes and wolves. They're roaming around in there. There's deer. There's beaver, ducks. And walking through that park, that section of park, I can connect to nature. Just bam, I am connected. And I can feel it right now. My spirit guides are going, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If you can find a place like that fits whatever you like, that's a heaven. That's heaven. And yes, I'm walking through the park, but at the same time, I have found on several occasions now, I have heart condition and such. So there are times when I don't feel as healthy as I wish I were. And I will walk a little unsteady, just slightly. And so I'm looking down as I'm walking through this boardwalk. And I'm looking a little bit ahead, but not far. And I noticed one day that, well, wait a minute. I'm looking down, but I'm also looking ahead. And I'm seeing the path going straight down through the park. and I've seen trees going over the top, and I'm aware of all the trees around me. I'm fully connected to nature in this view, but down here, I'm in the physical view. What's going on? And it dawned on me, my spirit is kind of lifted up out of my body as I'm walking. And I got this view up here, and I've got this view down here. That's the kind of things that can happen when you get carried away. But it's, so I've talked about, you can sit down, lie down, whatever, meditate that way by just letting go of all, purposely think about your body being limp as much as you can without falling over or whatever. Try to think about it that way. Let it be still. Let the body be still. And for me, at that point in time, I then close my eyes because I don't want to have any physical thing in front of me. And I will maybe think of a picture. I'll think of a color. I can listen to classical music, but then that kind of distracts me sometimes. Being a musician, I kind of start getting into it. So I don't do that a lot. But just put your place into whatever you can think about for a love, safe place. And then slow the breathing down. Whatever fits, let your biorhythm just do its thing. Don't try to manage it. Just slowly breathe in and breathe out. I usually try to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. And just let it be. Let it be. And it comes to you. You let it come to you. It meaning spirits. Just let them come to you. And they will. In some form, they'll contact you. They may be a touch, like I have with the cold air. It may be a thought comes through your mind. My spirit guides don't talk to me with voice. They talk with me through telepathic ways. So I just become aware of something. Maybe love. It could be an energy field. Love. Kindness. Just let it be. And I could do that for a long time. It also helps not to have the phone turned on, have it silenced, whatever things. Keep the electronics away and just let it be. So that's kind of it.
Thank you.
It's simple, but at the same time.
And also, I think I would say be aware that a lot of times our guides are talking to us, but we don't realize it's our guides. We just think it's our own thoughts.
Yeah. I had a tendency for a long time to think it was my idea.
Yeah.
and sometimes maybe it is. But again, that's working with the spirit guides or angels, whatever you wish to call them. And I do truly believe they are our friends. That we have decided to come back here. That Earth is a classroom. We come here to learn. We come here to experience every kind of emotion that there is, not in one lifetime, but in multiple lifetimes. And we have a contract with our soulmates to help us on that. Sometimes they're here with us in another form. At the same time we're here, we're helping them, they're helping us, whatever. And sometimes they're right here. So yeah, it's a wonderful world. It's a wonderful world. I'm going to miss it when I leave. I've been told, I was asked one time by a different spirit, a higher power. I kind of hate to rate them, but the other one seemed like a higher power, and it would come down over my head and stop here on my forehead. And the first time it did that, I can make my hand go away. The first time it did that, it came down too hard, and I got a headache. And I was in a meditation with a bunch of other people at the time. I yelled, "No, don't, no." And everybody wanted to know afterward what happened. I said, well, it was trying to talk to me, but it was talking too fast and it was too strong of an energy. And I asked it to please slow down. A few months later, it came back and it had worked its way down to tell me and to be able to communicate with me. And it asked me, what do you want to do in your next life? And I go, what the heck's that mean? But that was the question. And I said, I would like to study time. I like to understand time. And the answer came back, or the response back was granted. So I'll be working with time somehow in my next life, wherever that life is, whether it's in the spirit world or coming back here to study time across space or something. Who knows? Yeah.
Okay, now's your chance, guys. If you have a question, we have a
good.
few more minutes.
Okay.
Nobody has a question. I might mention your book. I didn't mention it in the intro. Living with My Spirit Guides is the book. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it came about, it's a memoir, basically. I divided the book up into sections. I originally started writing it in chronological order, and that just didn't make sense. Because I wanted to point out similarities, things that happened, such as I told you about the crosswalk and then the NDE back in 1986, and then that kind of led me to helping people die when I was 17. So I did that sort of thing. I put them in that kind of order. It took a lot of work, 19 years, like I said. And the last year or two, I went back through it, I think twice, and tried to add to it. What did I feel like at the time that happened? Because that's very important to understand. Some of it is just spiritual transformative experiences. I think they call it STEs. That's Dr. Kaysen called that. And we may all have had those and not even be aware of it. Like you were saying earlier, Gloria, I thought it was my idea. It could be that sort of thing. But if you're aware that they can approach you that way, telepathically, just give you a little hint of something, or in my case, red lights, warnings, then you'll be more aware. And if you're more aware, you'll be more connected to them. We all have at least, well, I can't say, that's not the right way to say it. I believe we all have at least a couple of angels working with us. We may have more. We may need more help. And there are many different types. Like I said, I had my guardian angel. I did meet my guardian angel a second time. I didn't mention that. And that happened during 9/11 timeframe. It was the day, September 10th, I think it was. I was in a bad way, and they came to me and talked to me a little bit, saying it's going to be okay. So, yeah, don't know where I was going to go with that now. Oh, the book. It's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and a lot of in the bookstores, independent bookstores. I think I've even found it on Google Books. I didn't even know there was a thing called Google Books. But if you go to Google Books, you can actually look at a few pages of the book. They have previews available to you. And it's also available, it's already available softback, a hard copy, and also e-reader formats. So it's available in multiple ways. I wrote the book basically because I needed to have a background that you could go to and look at. My primary purpose in life now is to talk. That's why I'm still here. That's why I've been given an additional 10 years to live. And the book is it's just a way to enforce a little bit more to it. So yeah, that's kind of what's that. It's kind of funny. The book came about in 2020. Yeah, February of 2020, I believe it was. February 29th, Leap Day. I decided I'm going to take the leap and get a publisher. So I went self-published with Balboa Press, and I called them up, and I'd already looked at it before, decided what I wanted, and what I could afford. They're not cheap, and they said, "Well, this is your lucky day." And I said, "Why is that?" They said, "Well, we are not advertising it, but we have a Leap Day special," and they already had marked off 10% of the. I mean, they had a sale going for that. And I said, "Oh, how long is this going?" He said, "It's only today." I said, "Okay, well, what is it?" "It's 30% off, additional." So it's 40% off total. I'm going, well, I can't turn that down. So I signed up for it. And as I was reading off the credit card to him, my spirit guides appeared in a way I've never seen before or since. They were dancing across my forehead, little wisps of air flowing across my forehead, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I started laughing. And they said, "What?" I said, "My spirit guides are loud. They're happy. They think I did the right thing." He said, "Well, good for them." So yeah, it's kind of cool. I've had one other. I guess, do we have time or not?
We have a couple of minutes.
Okay. I had a time recently down at the beach with a friend of mine who's also very spiritually minded. She is able to do medium kind of work, and she also sees auras and such. So she's really into it. She's also a reverend. And we were sitting talking about our experiences with spirit guides. And when we were sitting there talking, all of a sudden I heard a crackle above me, and I looked up, and above her on the ceiling, there were 3 spirits floating around. They're just little, like, wisp of, well, there was no color to them. They're not of this world, so I don't see them that way. But they're kind of like a mirage, if you will. You know what a mirage looks like in a desert. You'll see fluctuations in energy, if you will, the heat probably. Yeah, that's what I've seen. But they were long and kind of moving around, and I kind of chuckled, and she said, "They're here, aren't they?" And I said, "Yes, they are." She's aware. I said, "They're above you." And we kept on talking. We just laughed and kept on talking. More of them showed up. We had like 8 of them floating around in the room, and she saw colors. She saw them in different colors floating around in the room, and we talked for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And they just kept floating around with us, and and we'd get into a certain subject, and they get excited, and they move faster. It was wonderful. It's wonderful. I want to do that again. I really want to do that again. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they're around, and 2 of them were my spirit guides. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. We were talking, and I was talking about a past life, and all of a sudden I felt a coolness, a warmness actually going across my face. And she said, she looked at me, she said, "Your face, it just turned yellow." I said, "Okay." I said, "I know it feels different. It feels warm." She said, "Yeah. Oh, well, now it looks like an old man." She said, "Are you an old soul?" And I said, "I've been told I'm an old soul before, but I have no way of knowing." She said, "Oh," and then one of my spirit guides came by and stopped right here on my cheek and just sat there. And she said, "Oh, you got a blue dot on you now, on your right cheek." I said, "That's my spirit guide." She said, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." And then they went on about doing their thing. And finally, after 3 hours, I was getting too tired. It was past midnight or something like that. And it's like, oh, I got to go to bed. And so we went our own way. But we talked about it the next few days. And when we talk about it, we get excited. We do Zoom calls on that.
Wonderful to share these kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Greg.
Sure.
Your presentation was fascinating, and your delivery is so mellow and peaceful, and it's a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting
Thank
me.
you.
for being our guest, and thank
Okay.
you all who attended.
Okay.